Community Services District for May 21st to order. We just had a closed session. Bill, would you want to speak to that?
Bill's on mute.
No reportable actions, Barbara.
Thank you. So for this meeting, do we need a separate roll call?
Sure, yes. So Director Dye.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Director Seaton.
Here.
And Director Sukamel.
He's here.
He's here.
Hello.
I'm here. Sorry, I muted myself by mistake.
I hear Delia as well. So
Yes.
Also here is Claudia,
Claudia and Marshall.
our Recreation and Parks person, and Nancy Marsh, our Parks Advisory Committee Chair.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, so item 1 is report on parks and recreation activities.
Barbara, did you do general public participation?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, let me call for general public participation. Would anyone like to speak on an item not on the agenda? Hearing no requests. Close general public participation and move on to the general agenda. Report on parks and recreation activities. I know our Park Advisory Committee has not been able to meet. I will report that we have had some ongoing meetings with regard to the Burnham Park plan. Right now, our designers are working with the Resource Conservation District to look at some water treatment options for both of the drainages on the property. And our hope is that we will have a first draft plan to present to the board and the community for our June meeting. So lots of progress has been made. There's been meetings with the county, meetings with Connect the Coast and so forth, but it will be hopefully June.
Barbara?
Report. Yes.
We've not scheduled a PAC meeting. We had one scheduled for right about the beginning of May that we canceled. And so if you're getting close to have something to review, we also didn't have something really substantive that we do on our agenda. But when you get to the point where you'd like input or review or advice from PAC, we can similar to this one if you'd like.
I think that would be great. I think maybe present it to the board, get feedback from the board, and then also ask the PAC to review and provide comments before we go out for public comments.
Okay, so I'll aim for after the June board meeting.
Well, and it's not 100% sure that we'll have it for that meeting. So
okay, just keep me posted because we can do a Zoom meeting on pretty short notice. Right,
I think it would be good. That's the goal. So, anyone else want to comment on that topic? So we've actually met with the county planning department a couple of times, and they've been very supportive and excited about the Burnham Park project. So, has real potential coming along. David has been, and I have been meeting with the county along with Claudia to move this project forward. Anything else on that? Okay, consideration of request to open the skate ramp. Chuck, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, as you all know, under the COVID-19 rules in San Mateo County, they've closed down pretty much all businesses and skate parks and beaches and whatnot. So at some point in time, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we closed down the skate ramp and we put a chain across it. Delia and Tony Young put a chain across it. Since that time, last week, the governor issued new regulations, as did the county of San Mateo, regarding that. And there's been some discussion back and forth about whether the skate ramp should be open and is allowed to open. And we've basically come down on the side of, we don't believe it's allowed to be open under the county rules. So we've taken that stance, and it may be a better safe than sorry. We've also looked at some of the issues. Michelle has, brought up some suggestions with volunteers and things like that. Like many other things during COVID, there's a lot of places closed down. If we had volunteers, we'd have to have them fingerprinted because it'll be working with minors and juveniles. And the live scan fingerprinting service is not available at this point in time as well. So there's a lot of impediments, to opening the skate ramp. I do want to point out that your board, was the one that moved the skate ramp off of Caltrans however many months ago onto our property, and I think everybody appreciates that action. But I think we're taking a more cautious approach to this, and I think it's the way to go. So I don't know if your board's got any comments or.
Do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak to this?
I'll just say, just from the emails from Michelle's suggestions and the legal use, it really looked like it's only something that we could do if we hired someone who was appropriately vetted to be a monitor and opened it for set hours when it could be supervised, which I know. So we just haven't talked about staffing for parks, even Burnham Park to this point. But it looks like that's really the way it could go forward, is if we hired somebody either on contract, probably on contract, to be the monitor, and then Chuck would have to deal with how you supervise them and how you manage them and so on. But that's really what the proposal, Michelle, I think boiled down to, is we need some park staff at some point. This might not be the right point, but we will at some point.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Michelle, would you like to speak?
Yeah, we just have to figure it out. I mean, that's what the county has sort of done, is when I talked to the senior communications person, they pretty much said, look, we're opening it up. We're giving you the opportunity and we have to figure it out. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't think we're going to get it right the first time, but I think if we make it a process and just try. I mean, I don't see any liability. There's no data for lawsuits because we don't have any data for testing. There's no way that there could be a lawsuit. But if you saw the plans that I put out there, it accommodated social distancing. There was disinfectant sort of strategies. There was actually an online registration that you could do so that you wouldn't be standing in line for longer than you would like to. Did you guys get my email on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what were the problems then? Because I mean, I'm like solution person. Get a problem? What's the solution? We have to solve this. I mean, we are Parks and Recs. We have a teeny little skate ramp, and we're out in the boonies. I think we could try a lot of things and maybe come up for solutions rather than just problems.
Well, I'd just like to say that I would love to see it open. And I think we really did look into trying to figure out a way that it could work. But it's really more like a playground than it is a skate park. I mean, it's an unmonitored. And I know that there's an option, a proposal to have volunteers, but every volunteer would
No, we don't want volunteers. You need to have a paid person. This is way too much liability. I mean, I agree with you. There's liability here. And if you have an employee, whether it's a contract employee or Claudia, I think her hours are kind of, slow right now. I mean, I'm happy to help. I'm quite happy to volunteer and do all of it. But and I know the fingerprinting thing, I think that's overkill. If you get a parent that's local here and everybody likes that person, I think that's what you're looking for.
I think the law requires that we have people do the fingerprinting, and as an agency, you have to obey the law.
Yeah, you can't even coach a sports team without that.
Yes. I think we're going to have to wait a bit more until the regulations loosen up. I think it's premature to hire someone because I think we need to see what the regulations, what the changes are going to be in the future. I don't think we have the capacity right now or to put together.
Okay, safer than Safeway. If you're telling me that going into Safeway is less safe than skating on a ramp, let them skate on the ramp. I mean, you see people that are cheek to jowl in Safeway, and in Cunha, all the stores. I mean, there's doesn't seem to be any latitude in terms of what we can do. And the county, again, I talked to the county. I don't know if you have, but I did. And they said, open it up. Figure the way out.
No, they did not.
It's our job. It's what we do. We were elected to do this. And the county has given us permission too. So I'm not sure what you're reading, Barbara, but the county has said, open it up. We have a mental health crisis.
A public affairs person at the county told you.
Yes.
Her opinion.
No.
We had legal advice, which has really looked at the issues and the regulations. And sadly, right now, it doesn't meet the criteria.
In what way? Be
I'm
specific.
not going to get in a dialogue right now about that. Does someone else want to comment on this?
Please do.
I mean, what would be the risk? What would be the risk of putting up what our guidance is, whatever the requirements is, whether it's one person at a time, whatever, and then if it's not followed, we put the chain back on again, and we post the notices saying, hey, there are going to be people monitoring it. This is a temporary thing. As soon as there's any reports that this compliance is not being followed, we're going to put the chain back up until further notice. And everyone knows, from Michelle, everyone on board, listen, this is probably going to be a temporary thing, because if at any point somebody ruins it, the chain's going back up again. And we just do it that way. And we let the accountability rest on the citizens to see if they want to, whatever rules we set, to see if they can follow it. And then we give them that chance, and then we put the chain back up if we have to.
Love it. Yep.
Anyone else?
Well, the rules haven't been followed so far. Why would they be followed then?
Well, I think like what Dave said, they don't follow the rules, they get it shut down. That's it. I love your accountability. I love your accountability angle.
Do we have rules right now, posted right now?
Yep.
They keep tearing down the signs, actually, and people are going out there and cutting the locks on the chain and moving it over to the side if there's too much slack. So they're totally not abiding by, what we're trying to ask them to do.
So in effect, it's not even the chain is pointless right now. So in effect, if
no, I got a thicker lock on it, and they have not cut this one yet. So there's actually two locks on it, because I had to put one on each side because the chain, doesn't double up. It just goes, across. So there's a lock on each corner, basically. And there were two different quality of locks that I was able to get at the local store there, the hardware store. And one of the locks was a little bit thinner, and that was the one that was cut, which I replaced with a much thicker lock, which is still intact at this time.
And Barbara, Dave Olson is in the audience, if you will, and would like a chance to speak.
Oh, sure. He's muted.
Yeah, well, he's got his hand up.
Dave, please.
I can see it. You can't.
Dave, please.
Okay, I did want to say that on the 515 health order from Dr. Morrow, he explicitly allows skate parks to reopen, but you have to have a social distancing protocol, disinfecting, all of that stuff posted, which means you need to develop those. And I do agree with the statement that you need somebody to supervise that, to enforce it. So in the sense that Dr. Morrow has said it's allowed, but you still have a lot of requirements to meet. And I do think there's actual legal liability.
And I'm looking at the.
Wait. What's the liability?
We're going to call on people here.
Okay.
Chuck, do you see hands raised?
No, Dave's was the only one. So
no, I mean, you have the capacity to see.
Yes, I do. Yes, I saw Dave's.
So it's not just people jumping in.
Yeah, no.
Bill, do you want to address this?
Happy to. So the order does say that skate parks may open as an example of recreational facilities that may open. However, it then circles back to the prohibition against high-touch equipment and the like, including playgrounds, etc. And that the facility that's open has to allow for social distancing and people have to wear face coverings. Now, when you look at the context of the whole order, and I've read it several times, it's very clear to me that this facility doesn't fit within the exception for recreational facilities. It's more in the nature of, as you pointed out, Barbara, a playground or high touch equipment. It's not, and I'm not being pejorative here. I mean, the skate ramp is a treasured thing for the community, but it's not a skate park. You can't equate it with a skate park. And so when you look at the order and in the context of the order and what's required under the order, the skate ramp is not something that can be open pursuant to the order. And again, skate parks are an example of a recreational facility that could be opened, but then the caveat to that is it still refers back to the prohibition against high touch equipment, and that the facility can only open if social distancing can be employed, and everyone would have to wear face covering. So again, when you look at the context of the whole order and you read all the provisions of the order, the skate ramp is not something that falls within the definition of those things that are permitted to open.
So we don't know when this next iteration of the order will come out.
Correct.
But I don't understand. The Bill, you just said that the order says we can open it up.
No, that's not what I said.
And that is the same thing that I got from the county. Is that
No, that's not what I said.
No. So when I called the county.
That's not what Bill said, Michelle.
Well, let me finish. So when I called the county, I said, so you're saying that you can open skate parks and skate ramps. And I specifically asked them, please let me finish before you stop. And I asked them, so you are allowing skate parks, but you're not allowing playgrounds. What part of that makes sense? Because skate ramps and parks are high touch as well as playgrounds. They got it wrong. And I asked them, what do you want me to do? I'm on the Parks and Recs committee for GCSD. I've got a skate ramp. I'd like to open it. What do we need to do? And you can call her, go to my post, and I've already given you the ideas of how we can open it, which includes, Bill, social distancing. It includes a monitor. It includes disinfectant. We have to figure this out. It's not a can't do list. It's a can do list. What can we do to make this happen?
Well, in my opinion, in reading the order, this doesn't qualify as a skate park as meant in the order, because the limitation on recreational facilities, including skate parks, takes you back to the prohibition against high touch equipment, the use of high touch equipment. And the fact of the matter is it's just, this particular facility doesn't meet the definition of what they envision to be open for recreational facilities when you read it in the context of the entire order and the prohibitions of the order.
Okay, disagree. We have to make this happen.
And Barbara, Dave would like to say something more.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to the difference between a
Wrong,
skate
David.
park and a skate ramp.
Dave
I
Olson.
would disagree that a ski ramp is high touch, because they're talking, the definition, they talk about shared equipment. And you look at, a skateboard, it's your own skateboard. If you're coming down, you're kind of sliding down on your back. I mean, I think it is definitely open for interpretation. I think that everyone's kind of right, everyone's kind of wrong in terms of, I don't think they specifically address, something of this nature. And I think it's definitely open to interpretation. I think that we could, as long as we had the signage and everything, I don't see this, I think that it's something that we could get by with just kind of using good judgment.
Dave Olson.
Sorry, I didn't have anything else to say. I forgot to press the raise hand button to lower it again.
Eric and Matthew, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I would address a couple of points. Michelle, you cannot say there's no liability. There's big liability. when this whole COVID-19 thing gets settled, there's going to be so much liability spread around this world that you won't believe it. And this agency has to be cognizant of that. If one person catches this or can claim they can catch it, we're in for a big deal, a big bad deal. And I read through your plan a couple of times and I choked on a couple points. One was you can't wear gloves when you skate. And well, that's what would be required because this is a high touch activity. The monitors will urge skaters to not touch the rails with their hands. They lean against it. Urging doesn't cut it. That's not, monitoring. And would you like to be a monitor and have to stand there and?
Actually, I'd be completely willing to do that.
You're
Absolutely.
doing, oh, you touched it. Oh, you didn't touch it. No, I didn't touch it. You can argue with them all you want. And here's a real killer. Masks are unrealistic while skating. Skaters consume serious oxygen. Putting pressure on the lungs is dangerous, especially for asthmatics. But here's the key. Being outside, droplets will disperse readily. That's exactly the problem. And you're admitting that will cause this problem, that the droplets will disperse readily. So you could be 6 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet away. And without masks, the masks aren't to keep the person wearing it well. They're to keep that person who may be infected but asymptomatic from infecting other people. So, masks would be mandatory. And if within your plan that can't work, then your plan can't work.
Okay, let's just rip the skate ramp apart and forget it because we clearly can't get around it. Actually, in Delia's comments, it would be better if you just took apart some of the skate light off of it, so you don't have the just take it off on the bottom. I mean, if you're not going to open
I talked to Scott about that, and he said that when you take off pieces of the ramp itself, that they warp and they're difficult to put back in place, and he strongly advised against doing it that way.
Well, the problem is under this thinking, we will not open the ramp up in any time in the future at all. And so
I don't know that is necessarily true. We don't want to ruin the ramp, so.
Sure, I would be happy to talk. Delia, I think you've done a wonderful job of dealing with this in a proactive and considerate way. We appreciate all your hard work on this. I mean, just personally speaking, I'm loath to just kind of quote unquote make it work and treat this as a test case. I mean, this is fundamentally a human health issue. And so it seems clear to me that in the absence of a solid and workable plan to have some full, frankly, it would need to be a full-time monitor out there monitoring the skate ramp, and having some level of comfort that we could do this in a safe and compliant way. I'm not willing to kind of just wing it and hope for the best. And I think if we don't have a solid plan, and if our legal counsel is of the opinion that we can't do this in a way that's compliant with the county order, I think we need to wait, and we need to see how this evolves. I think we all hope that in a month or in 2 months, we'll be in a position where we can come up with a plan and open it back up. But my feeling is right now it's premature, and we're not in a place where we can confidently move forward.
All right, well, I don't know if someone wants to make a motion. Just say, I would love to see it open. I think kids need to get outside and do things that are active. I'm willing to wait 1 more month, given the legal issues that have been sort of presented by and explained to us, I would commit to putting it on the next agenda, and perhaps at that meeting we could ask the Parks Committee to look at it and come up with some recommendations. Hopefully the requirements of the order will be reduced in the future. Maybe the live scan will start up again. It's complicated for us to try to hire someone to do it. I don't think we're ready yet. So would anyone like to make a motion on this topic?
And Barbara, you don't, and Bill, weigh in on this. I'm not sure you actually need a motion to keep it closed. Your board has decided.
No, I was actually wondering if someone wanted to make a motion to open it.
Oh,
see if there's any support for it, because
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to either open it or at least pick a date to open it, because I think, you know, everything's changing so fast. I think we're, at the end of the day, we have, you know, the full decision-making discretion to decide. There's not going to be a point in time when the governor of California says small skate ramps are now open for business. There's going to be this point all along the way where beaches are open, skate parks are open. You know, maybe you know, tattoo shops aren't open, but you can get a haircut. So at what point do we say we're not going to get any guidance from the state of California or anywhere on this specific issue? So let's pick a date and try to target that date to open, and whether that's.
Are you proposing to hire someone, David? Is your motion to hire?
I don't think that would be necessary unless I start seeing other skate ramps and skate parks doing that. Right now.
Let me state your motion. What?
I just want to clarify that if you were to open it, you would absolutely have to have a monitor. You have to actively monitor and manage a facility if you're going to open it under the order. That's the only reason we're talking about active monitoring management.
And that's what these other parks that have opened in San Mateo County are doing right now then?
Well, I don't know if that's what they're doing, but that's what's required pursuant to the order.
Okay, and is there a date when that goes until? Is that until the end of May?
It's just whenever the order changes.
I think that's through the end of May, right? Through the last day in May.
Well, I would.
Bill, is the order indefinite until it gets changed?
I have to look back at it. I don't recall, but it'll either be extended or it'll be a new order or a different order.
Well, they've been amending the order as they go, you know, so.
Yes. I mean, you never know. In 2 weeks.
I think that orders through the end of May. So I would propose saying that we shoot for June 1st, and then we could always push out.
But what are you proposing, David? What are you proposing in terms of monitoring?
You know, I'm saying that we target June 1st as the opening date. That with the idea that there's not going to be beyond this current restrictions that we're in. Once things loosen up, there's not going to be an ongoing requirement for monitoring.
Okay, so you're proposing that. Is there a second for that motion?
Well, let me. So the motion is to, at this point in time, open it June 1st with no monitor.
Correct.
That's the question, David.
If the restrictions have been relaxed by that point, then we get automatically. Then we get a vote right now to say, okay, yeah, that works. We go out there and cut it down.
Hearing no second for that motion, the motion dies for lack of a second. I would propose, I don't want to make a motion, but I would propose that we continue, put this on our next agenda and reevaluate the situation in a month and ask people to be patient and tell them we're really sorry. That we moved it for them, we fixed it up for them, and we will get it open for them, but it won't be right away. And we're really sorry.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
I would like to see it open too. I'm willing to wait a month, but I'm a lot more willing to wait a week. And these orders have been changing almost on a weekly basis from the county. So this could literally be moot. I don't think so, but next Monday or sometime next week, the restrictions could be greatly loosened. But here's an idea. what if we wrote to the county, the health officer, and described our situation and got a real opinion from the person that's controlling their message rather than their public relations people?
So you're not going to take my word for it. You're going to have to, and that's a great idea. Double check that what I said is true. Because when you talk to the PIO, he's going to say exactly what I said, which is you got to figure it out.
Michelle,
Yeah,
I think
it's not
the
in
proposal
control.
was to talk to the health officer, not the PIO.
He speaks for them. So when I called him, this was a county. She actually spoke to legal before she got back to me.
Okay, but we have legal counsel that we need to listen to also. So what you're proposing is Matthew, what are you proposing? That if the order is lifted between now and the next meeting?
And that our legal counsel analyzes it, and it's clear to him that we can now open it. Yes, we open it immediately. But,
And I don't even think you need sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, Matthew. I didn't mean
go
that.
ahead.
I don't even think you need a resolution for that. I think staff's intention all along was that if the order changed and the skate ramp was permitted to be open, that staff would open the skate ramp. It's only being closed
Absolutely, yeah.
pursuant to a
Are you
sanitary.
all on board with that? But I guess default, I'd like to consider this. If there's
go ahead.
clear direction from the county that we cannot open it, I would still like to look at it in a month.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying you don't need a resolution to.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I agree. Nancy.
If I could just mention that if everything were to just go away tomorrow, I would walk out there immediately with the key and take that chain off. So that was my intentions. But as long as the order is in place and there's certain issues to be complied with, then I will, leave it to the board to decide. So.
Nancy?
Just thinking about Dave's notion of setting a date or aligning to the orders. So you and Bill have likened it to a playground as a high touch rather than a skate park like the Half Moon Bay skate park. Could you make a motion to open the skate ramp when the county health department allows playgrounds to open and just align it to the playground order?
Fine with that. I'd be fine with that. Bill?
Seems like we would want to read the order before we agree a priori. I guess I have one other, comment or point of discussion. I mean, is it worth having staff work with council to see if, assuming if the current iteration of shelter in place were to be extended, can we develop a workable plan for opening the skate ramp under the current shelter in place restrictions? I know Michelle provided an outline based on her discussions with the county and her understanding of the order. I mean, can we develop a framework to open it up?
You would need to hire staff. Is that what you're suggesting?
I mean, if that's what it takes, are we prepared to consider it or are we not?
I hope so. I hope we will consider staff. This is going to be the new now. So we have to figure it out and, get staff or whatever it is. I did actually find the quote that it was the lady that I was speaking with is Michelle Durand. She's the Chief Communications Officer. And I spoke to her on the phone. And if you go to my website, you can see the post. But she was basically saying, regarding bike, kayak, stand-up paddle rentals, all of these things, skate parks, yacht clubs, sailing, I was saying, what do we do? All of these entities have to figure it out. The yacht club is still closed. So we're not alone. It's not an easy thing to figure. The liability may be there, Bill. I just don't think there's enough data medically for there ever to be a lawsuit that's contingent. So I think we have to consider mental health So the city manager, Bob Nisbet of Half Moon Bay, he said something really cogent when he was a couple meetings ago. He said, we have 3 disasters on our hand. We have a public health disaster, we have an economic disaster, but we also have a mental health disaster. When you take skating and surfing away from people like that, I'm really lucky. I live at the end of the road and I can go, paddle my kayak or my surf ski whenever I want. And I feel so sorry for the other people who can't do that. So Jeff Clark and I, we have not closed our street. We're the only street in the harbor that's not closed. And we mentioned social distancing here and there, nudging people, but we're working it out. And there's no liability in my particular case here because it's a public street. But my point being is that he and I are working it out. And I also gave the yacht club a plan for how they could open too in terms of their bar and social distancing with sailing and stand-up paddling. Again, we got to figure it out. So I really appreciate the conversation that we've had here. It's been very productive, and I think we'll figure it out. I'm positive.
Well,
can I ask a quick question, Claudia? Did you find out what the thing was on fingerprinting when they might be open again?
The substation that does the live scan for us here on the coast told me that it was not happening and to call back in June and see if it would be available in June.
Okay, so it's really up to the substation then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, no, so I'm a CERT trainer, and we are using LifeScan to get our CERT team cleared. And you can actually call up LifeScan and ask them to come to you, or you can go to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to them
So
where,
maybe,
Michelle?
Well,
so
I mean,
maybe
obviously there's things that are changed, but they have to pivot as well. So I would call them up and ask them, hey, we have the situation. What do we do now? I'd be curious to see what they say.
Okay.
I don't think
Claudia.
We have some other things on the agenda tonight, and I think we do have to move on here.
I'm good. I really appreciate you giving me the time to say what I need to say, and
well, we appreciate you, Michelle, very much, and
your
enthusiasm. And I wanted to. I hope the plan will work, and I still hope it will. And I think my personal thing is, if it looks like this, I'm willing to give it one more month. If it looks like it's going to go on long past that, I would like to see if we can hire someone to manage it, maybe just on weekends or something like that. Someone who already passed his live scan and who, is qualified, and we could at least, get kids there for part of the time. I'd like
now I could actually contact my CERT volunteers and ask if a volunteer would like to be they're already life scanned. That there's another angle right there. But again, I
don't think we can do it with volunteers the more that we look at it, because it's really hard to manage.
No. I mean, they would be hired, but they would have had their life scan thing. But again, I know you got to get on with your agenda, and I so appreciate the conversation.
I wanted to I put this on the agenda, I just wanted to really have a conversation about it and say that we wish we could see our way clear to doing it. And
that's okay.
A little more patience, because we really do want to see it open, and we'll try to make that happen next time if we can't do it.
And I'll let people know. And Bill and Chuck, I appreciate your points of view. I mean, you guys are an agency and you have to be responsible. I know I'm kind of wild, just open it up, but I do respect your point of view. And I will now that I've been to the meeting, I will communicate, as you said, Barbara. Sorry.
No,
we're not it.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
We'll wait another month and then see if we can put Matthew.
I have a question. The mayor of Half Moon Bay has been issuing statements weekly, and I've been reading them. And the last one doesn't mention their skate park explicitly, but it does say all high touch things have to remain closed. Does anybody know, is that skate park in Half Moon Bay open?
No.
Oh.
They are having the same problems that we are having. They're trying to figure out the high touch situation. And again, space people apart, have a monitor, those kinds of things. And again, we can figure this out. It's just going to take a little time. It's crazy. And really different, but we can do this. We have to get people out.
I agree with that. So, okay, anything further? Moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda, consideration of the draft sewer authority mid-coastside general budget.
Barbara, excuse me.
Yes.
I would like to have a little bit of time for the Park and Rec's statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. We should have had that on Park and Recreation activities.
Okay. Well, what I did want to tell everybody was that Half Moon Bay is targeting July to reopen their recreation programs, but they're not promoting them. So they're still in a wait and see type of mode, which is exactly where we are. But I have got commitment from several instructors to start a children's workshop in August and an after-school program for children when the school reopens. And the other thing that I wanted to suggest is to get started again with our walks. And we can do this with social distancing and with a personal microphone speaker, loudspeaker. And, you know, talk about mental health. July would be the perfect time to start our walks up again. So I wanted the board to consider that and to see if we can't get moving on it.
I think that's a great idea. So why don't you look into what it would cost to get one of those microphones?
I already did, under $65.
Yeah. All right, I'm happy to work with you on that. I have lots of ideas.
Okay, great.
So, all right, that's good.
Okay, that was it.
Great, and I apologize. I thought I asked for more input, but I'm sorry that I skipped over you.
That's okay.
So moving to the sewer authority budget, so much more interesting than what we've been discussing now. The good news is it's a much better budget and it makes sense this time. We don't have, remember last year we had all these questions that weren't really answered and it was very stressful. This time it's a really clear budget. So over to you, Chuck.
Okay. Sorry, Nancy had a thumbs up symbol. I didn't know if that was a hand up or a thumbs up or I've never seen it.
It was a thumbs up for Claudia's suggestion on the wall.
Good.
Just learning how to talk with Zoom.
Well, I'm learning how to figure out what you're talking about. So we're on the same page. So we've got in front of us the SAM yearly budget, and it's generally divided into 4 sections. It's on page 4. If you turn to page 4 of the SAM budget, maybe that's the best overview.
Can you go ahead and share your screen, Chuck?
I don't have it. I have a paper copy.
Okay, let me see.
Come on, share your screen.
Okay.
I'll do it. I've got it. Are you going to look at the PowerPoint or the document?
I was going to look at the document itself.
Oh, you're the only one who's allowed to do screen sharing, Chuck.
Yeah, I kind of like that power actually. So I'm not going to lie. So let me get to the budget here. I got it open.
Because I think when you're checking numbers, you have to look at the numbers.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Bear with me here. Okay. Did it work?
Yep. There we go.
There you go. Who knew? All right. This is probably the simplest way to look at the SAM budget. So the SAM budget is generally broadly divided up into 4 sections: the administrative staff, the treatment side, the environmental compliance, which is a very small part of it, and the infrastructure budget. So if you look across, the 2 biggest operational expenses are the administrative and the treatment. and they're looking to go up 8% and 7% respectively this year. That's the area that's increased substantially over with the previous administration for the prior 3 years. So it's nice to see a smaller increase in that segment there. The environmental division is basically they inspect restaurants and commercial areas and things like that for make sure they're complying with our waste discharge requirements and things like that. It's a very small part of it. And then the infrastructure budget. So that fluctuates each year. I don't like to include that as part of the operations because it really isn't. It's basically capital projects that they're doing. They had predicted they would spend $2.4 million in capital projects last year. Their budget this year is 1.992. So they're going to do a bunch of projects, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But generally, it's an 7.5–8% increase in the budget. So that's somewhat good news from prior years, like I said. And Barbara or Matthew, to a lesser extent, feel free to jump in if you'd like on any of these issues. I'd say overall, what I'm happy about is, Kishen's, who's the general manager of SIM, Kishen's attitude toward the budget. He looks to save costs. We had a couple positions that were included in there, an accounting technician and a contract manager. And we had discussions at the member agency manager level with him, and that was a nice collaborative process. And we went back and forth on it, and he agreed that we didn't need these two positions. He's also looking to limit legal costs and things like that, which I think is good. So it's just a mindset. I've said it many years past. You can put the budgets out in front of people all you want. At the end of the day, you either have a cost-saving mindset or you don't. And Kishen has a little bit more of that this year, so that's nice to see. As we all know, we're all, everyone's under pressure with the COVID and the decrease in economic activity and whatnot. And Half Moon Bay got hit really hard. I don't know if you've all seen this. I think they've got a 30% revenue deficit on the city side. So they looked at reducing some of these infrastructure costs and projects and whatnot, and this budget reflects that, which again is nice to see. So, does anyone have any questions on the operational side?
Well, and one of my frustrations has always been that this should not all be presented together. Infrastructure should be separate. They've kind of addressed that by saying they're going to try to keep the level of infrastructure spending somewhat level from year to year. But still, when you're trying to look at comparative budgets, the infrastructure budget really does fluctuate. And so I would like to see, I think somewhere there's a chart that takes it out of the totals, but still you get the sense here. You can see that you can see how much it's changed. So now you have to kind of mentally add administration, treatment, and environmental together to get the operational costs, which I think is too bad, but it's fine. It is what it is.
Right. And it's not perfect. It's better than it was, but let me see if I can do this. So I've popped over to the infrastructure budget. Can you all see that?
What page is it, Chuck?
I think it's on my screen sharing. I can't tell.
I don't have a screen.
What's that?
It's still on the division budgets by fiscal year right now for me.
Okay. Thanks.
Maybe scroll down in it.
No, it's just a technological leap too far for me. So I don't know if I'll ever get back to Zoom at this point, quite honestly.
No, you're in Zoom. You're still in
Zoom.
I
know, right. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I won't be able to do that, but I'll just give a brief description of the projects they'll be doing. They'll be doing work on the digesters and the holding tanks that are there. They've got 2 digesters out at the SAM treatment plant. They've never been taken down, meaning they've never been emptied. So what they're in the process of doing is emptying them, doing a inspection of them, and they will possibly have to do some work on the tanks themselves if they just discover any structural issues and things like that. So that's the one.
They just emptied. I went and saw it. They emptied one of the tanks, and there are areas in the wall that have the coating is gone, so they're going to have to repair that so that they work more efficiently.
Okay, good. Yeah. And that's not surprising. The digester is a pretty toxic environment. It's at the back end of the plant, and the sludge is stored there, so that they get a lot of vectors and whatnot. So they're also looking at a smaller project, replacing a couple of vehicles in their fleet. They're going to purchase for $100,000 some critical spare parts for their belt filter press and conveyor. And again, that's at the back end of the plant. Two of the major processes of the treatment plant is you have to be able to get rid of the water, the effluent, and you have to get rid of the solids when they're separated. And so that will address the solids issue there. On the IPS, they're going to repair the access road that leads to the Montera pump station, which is part of the IPS. It's the first pump station in the system, obviously up in Montera. They're going to look at the initial design and analysis of the Montera force main section of the IPS, and that will cost $200,000. And then they're also going to look at the Princeton pump station, which is midway, and it's in Princeton, obviously. They've been looking at replacing that pump station for many years. They've finally put it in the budget. And so they're looking at doing the design analysis of that for $125,000. So the total is 1.975. Yeah.
Can you stop screen sharing since you're not screen sharing?
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Go on.
So that's the SAM budget in a nutshell. Like I said, the nice part about the operations is they've got a cost effectiveness. They're also adhering to, we had all, for budgeting purposes, asked them to kind of limit the capital projects to $2 million a year. So if nothing else, for the next few years, because our budgets are based on that. So they've done that as well. So, you know, it's some good news from SAM. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
On the finance committee for SAM, and I have to say the process is really good. You know, there was none of the mystery of the previous budget where you're like, where did this number come from? And so forth. Everything, any question you asked, they had a good answer for. For the consultants, I asked for, you know, a list of where that was going, and they had it right away. So it really feels as if it's a very transparent and logical. The backup is there. It's a much better budget. And for us, the number's down, which is good.
Right, exactly. And like I said, they were responsive. Kishan held a whole bunch of meetings with us via conference call, and when we could in person. You know, he was responsive to Half Moon Bay's request when they had their budget shortfall of reducing a couple of the capital projects that weren't necessities for the next year. So it was a good process, a much better process than in prior years and even before that, really.
But if you take out the infrastructure, the budget did go up, right?
Yeah, the budget went up 7 to 8%.
We keep saying it went down, but I think we do have to take that out to compare it and say the budget did go up.
Well, yeah, I mentioned that a couple times, David. I think what people are pointing to is Granada's share went down because our flows went down. But the overall SAM budget did go up 7 or 8%. They've got, you know, built into their contracts, their labor contracts, 7%. The labor is probably, I don't have it in front of me somewhere in this giant budget, is a pie chart which shows labor is probably a third of their costs, certainly, and maybe even half. So.
And they're also doing a lot more repairs and maintenance than have been done in the past. And there's a lot of systems that are getting upgraded right now, which is good.
Yeah, they've had a bunch. You know, the digester project was on the budget, I don't know, 3 years ago, and for whatever reason got stopped in the middle, and now they've picked it back up, and they're really doing a good job of trying to prosecute that. So that's good news.
And there's a lot of projects that are not in the infrastructure budget that are getting funded that are small. Like things that are just getting done, like the whole new electrical system. Is that an infrastructure project? I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but yeah, they've got a, I want to say it was a $500,000
And the fire alarms, it turned out their fire alarm system wasn't at all adequate. And so that's all been replaced now.
Yeah, and that was from a prior year budget.
So,
Yeah, on their treatment side, they've got, equipment repair, building and maintenance services, utilities. They've got professional services for $667,000, which a lot of that is infrastructure repair, specialized stuff. And they've got another $250,000 in equipment repair and equipment rental and building and maintenance. So, they've got money baked into the budget to fix the things that have been broken. So,
which is really good. And if you want to know more about it, they'll tell you.
yes. So, yeah. And if anyone has any real detailed questions, Kish would be happy to take your call or email and answer your questions. Okay, that's all I've got, unless anyone's got any other questions.
Now, do we need to approve this tonight or?
No, we generally approve it as part of our June meeting where we approve our budget and final iteration. We always like to see to some extent what the other two agencies do as well with the budget. So, so there's no rush to approve it at tonight's meeting.
Just move on from it?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. Anyone have anything further they'd like to say on the budget? Any public comment? All right, moving on. Consideration of draft fiscal year 2020-21 budget for GCSD.
Nope, you skipped over the contract collections, Sam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting dark in here. I need to put a light on. Consideration draft sewer authority mid-coast side contract collection services budget for fiscal year 2020-21. And this is we hire them as a contractor. That's why it's separate. It's completely separate from their regular budget to take care of our sewer lines because they're here and they have the equipment and they do a good job.
And yeah, and this is another nice change from previous years. They have separated out and they are completely separate budgets, so that's good to see. So this budget actually did go down from the prior year's budget from $816,000 to $672,000. So that's the good news. So our costs went from $296,000 a year last year to $186,000 this year. So that's a $100,000 drop, 37%. It was another good collaborative meeting we had with this. So what we've done this year is each agency will get an equal percentage of their agency lines cleaned. So in prior years, they've tried to do 100% of everybody's line. Last year, Half Moon Bay only cleaned 50% of their lines. That obviously has an impact on the rest of us. If they're only cleaning 50% of their lines, the service crew is spending more time in our districts, which drives our costs up because Sam's costs are generally fixed for the sewer cleaning. So the nice part is that we've all agreed, the 3 member agencies have agreed to clean the same percentage of our lines, and that helps us budget, and I think it's a more fair and equitable solution. They also took some previous overhead costs that were included in the collection services budget and moved them back to the treatment budget and administrative budget, which is, I think, where they belonged previously. It's not that big a difference to us because we pay generally 30%, 25% of the collections budget and the general operations budget. So good news is that went down. So as I think it should. So any questions on that?
Chuck, do you think the level of cleaning for GCSDs it will remain adequate? It's not in this budget document, but there was something for the Monday SAM meeting, and it said I can't remember exactly, but it seemed like it said they were cutting back cleaning procedures in GCSD considerably, like 4/5.
4/5 might have been 4/5 might have been the end. 80%. They're clean 80%, not 20%. So previously they had cleaned 100%, and you don't need 100% of your lines cleaned each year. This was a historical thing they kept doing. My district's down here, I think we cleaned something like maybe 20% of our lines each year. Now we hit what we call the hot spots. We hit the areas which have historical issues or get a lot of flow or have restaurants feeding them and whatnot. But yeah, if you're cleaning 100% of your lines, I think it's been overkill, and we've been discussing that for a few years now of ratcheting that down. So I think it's more than adequate. And so I think the number, Matthew, the 4/5 is what they're going to clean, not what they're reducing.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yeah.
My next question is about hotspots. Does this will the finding or forgetting about hotspots change this budget, or you think this is solid?
No, this is solid. This doesn't change any of the hotspots cleaning. So the
So all
hotspots
the hotspots in all three agencies are identified, and that's not going to change over the course of a year.
correct. Yeah, that's not changed at all. Yeah, and then we'll add to that as necessary or remove stuff. You know, we've had some hotspots that were hotspots, and we replaced them as part of our sewer line CIP in past years, so they don't need to be cleaned as much anymore. So this was a really good budget, Matthew, because I think we finally looked at the real costs for the collection services, and we separated aside. You know, Montera's got the 14 pump stations, so they take up more SAM time with the pump station runs. They used to do a pump run every day. We've backed that down to 2 times a week. So there's been a lot of cost savings there, a lot of efficiencies there, more importantly, because I don't think you need to do a pump run 5 days a week. So there's been efficiencies there. And then the hotspots haven't changed, and it's just some of the other sewer cleaning services that weren't really necessary, that were inefficient, that we're removing. So I think it's a really good budget.
Yeah, I think both of these budgets they're so much clearer and more transparent than what we've seen in the past. Kishan's doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to, that we all sat down once again and very collaborative. I can't say that enough. It was really nice to see. So.
Okay. I think one of the things the community needs to know is that by hiring Sam to do this, the equipment's right there. We have a lot of local people available. And so while Half Moon Bay at one point was considering going out for bids to have someone else do it, and they involved an over-the-hill organization, they're not here. Those people aren't here. And these are the people who come and deal with problems in the district. If we have an issue, they're the ones who are first in the scene, right? Who take care of it. And you don't want to wait till someone comes over the hill with some equipment to deal with a problem. By contracting with Sam, we have the economies of sharing some equipment, having local expertise, and having people on the ground here who are available to deal with problems.
Yeah, and a good point, Barbara, and I've said that before. Sam is the most efficient delivery of services here, I think, Okay. Okay. Good news for the SAM budget for once.
And again, we aren't going to take action on this tonight.
No, so that'll be good.
Any further comments on this topic? Anyone from the public like to speak on this topic?
Nope.
Moving along. Now to our budget. So exciting. The GCSD budget for 2021.
Okay, on to our budget. It's funny, I almost feel like I'm more familiar with the SAM budget at this point because I spend a lot of time on that, because at the end of the day, it's not our budget, but it's 65 to 70%, even higher with the infrastructure budget of our costs. So it's an important budget that needs to be looked at. So as I explain each year, and I'm going to go and I don't know if you want me to share the screen, Barbara? Or...
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So you can see my screen now?
No, we see the SAM budget.
Yeah, that's
scrolling for me now.
I'm going to get there. Okay, there we go. So now you can see I'm on the first page of our operating budget. Year over year, this budget doesn't change much. You know, we're pretty static in our costs. We've got this pretty well nailed down. So as you can see this year, we've got our property tax allocations, the first line in the budget. That's a discretionary item for your board. So we collect about $691,000. I'm predicting this year in property taxes. Your board has in the past decided to allocate $200,000 of that to the sewer side and the remaining $491,000 to the park side. I again want to point out that's completely discretionary. So there may be some times now or in the future where you decide if you've got a big parks project that you want to take all of that property tax money and allocate it to the park side. So that's something for your board to think about. I would probably recommend certainly for this year to keep that split the same because our sewer budget is predicated on that. And our sewer budget was part of a 3-year rate increase that started 2 years ago. This is the last year of the rate increase. So as you can see down below, our sewer service charge is going from $520 per EDU to $580 per EDU. So this is the last year of our 3-year increase. And so that was baked into our calculation. So you can see in line with that, our sewer service charges are going up from $1.68 million to $1.879 million. AD reimbursement's about the same. Franchise fee from ecology is about the same. Miscellaneous is small. So the real increase is about $200,000 from an increase in our sewer service charge. So moving on down to our SAM expenses. I've separated things out a little bit differently from prior years after some discussions with Barbara. So this shows just the SAM operating cost to give us an idea of where that money's going. So our share of the SAM general treatment went up slightly. So if you'll remember, the SAM treatment budget went up 7%. Ours didn't go up as much because our flows are down. So there's two pieces to that. The administration went down slightly because, again, it's flow-based and admin went up 8%. The environmental compliance is small enough not to talk about really. And the SAM contract collection services, like we just talked about, is down about $100,000. So, you know, good news on the SAM front, we're going down from 1.46 to 1.34. So any questions on that? Okay, moving on. SAM administrative expenses or GCSD administrative expenses. Not much of a change as well. I'll highlight a couple of the larger areas of change. I have to go back to my budget memo here, but employee salaries should remain relatively flat. The medical is going to go up. We predict about $10,000. This line item number 8, this CalPERS and unfunded pension liability payments. So if you look each year on our audit, we've got an unfunded pension liability, and that's basically the delta between what we're paying in and what the actuaries at CalPERS figured out we will eventually owe. And this is not just an issue with our district, it's an issue with every district, you know, in the state of California, certainly, that this number is building up. So I've discussed this with our accountant and a few other people on the coast. As I think I've explained to a few of you, pensions aren't exactly my area of expertise because I work for a private company. We don't have any. So we think it's prudent to start paying down this unfunded pension liability payment. I think for the coming year, our liability is about $185,000. That's a total number. That's not just for this year. So this $50,000 payment will pay that down to $135,000. And I think each successive year from now for the next 4 years, we should pay some part of that. And by year 5, we should have our unfunded pension liability zeroed out. And I know this is an issue, Barbara, you all have discussed it at SAM. Their number is bigger than ours, obviously, because they've got more employees. So I think that's something we'll be contributing to. And I don't know if you all had a discussion about it at your last finance committee meeting.
Well, we've talked about it. At this point, it's not in the budget, but I think there's partly because nobody hasn't been the time or energy to look at that. But I think for the next budget, that's definitely going to come in there. And I think it's really responsible. I mean, every district, every police department, every city, every entity in California pretty much has unfunded pension liability. And since we're in a position where we can start to pay it down, I think we should.
Right. Yeah, I think so as well. So good news. I'll give a
Chuck,
shout out to.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a quick
Go ahead.
question. What's the employee headcount assumption for the salaries and medical?
So the employee headcount assumption is 2 people in the office plus Claudia half-time. So 2 full-time employees and 1 half-time employee.
Okay, thank you.
And obviously, Genevieve's not with us, so Delia's looking to hire somebody else, but they'll be on board hopefully in the next couple months, as COVID has dropped everything a little crazy right now. So other than that, our costs are generally the same. Legal services went down because Bill's an efficient lawyer, so that's good news. The legal services line 12 for project case related, that's a little bit of a roll of the dice. If we settle this lawsuit with Half Moon Bay, those will be relatively low. If we don't, we'll have to change that budget possibly mid-year. So we'll see what happens with that. Professional services are predicted to go up $20,000. About $65,000 of that is my contract, and the other 20 is various professional services we've used. We've used appraisers and things like that over the past year. We've used some special outside legal counsel, so we include that there. But other than that, everything's pretty much the same. So our year-over-year budget increase is $78,000, and $50,000 of that is the pension liability payments. So I think that's pretty good.
Great.
Let me shut my door. Hang on.
I've got a question.
Did I just hear a rooster? It sounded like a
Claudia?
rooster.
Yeah,
We're actually fostering 2 rescue puppies. So
Oh, really?
someone might have
Oh,
stepped
that's
on them by accident.
Oh.
where is K&K's projected costs in this professional services number?
Where's what?
K&K, our landscape designer?
They're down in the parks end of it. So they're 2 or 3 pages down, Claudia.
Oh, okay.
This is just the sewer side, yeah. And
Okay,
maybe good to
gotcha.
point that out. This is just the sewer side, yes. Okay, so we're showing a projected transfer to reserves of $36,000. I'm not that accurate. It's pretty much a break-even budget, plus or minus. So, the good news is we are indeed close to breaking even with this stuff. So,
Chuck, I see that we have had an increase of $25,000 on insurance costs because we used to be insured through SAM. What line does that appear on, the insurance costs?
Sure.
that is line 10, right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right here. If you can see my hand. Yeah. So yeah, again, good point. I think I pointed that on my memo, but yeah, we used to be insured through SAM. Once we took over Parks and Recs, and for a variety of other reasons, we decided to take the insurance in-house. So that is offset by insurance costs over at SAM, so we won't be paying those. And Delia actually today just sent an email to Kishan to make sure that, she had sent a previous email, but just to make sure that they understand that. So, okay.
Chuck, can I just ask a quick question? And this is probably historical, but you have pet waste stations in the sewer budget. And I'm wondering now if, now that we have a parks budget, whether those, particularly because we're going to have them in Burnham Park, should be moved over to the parks budget. And we're paying for them on the medians. And if the board has decided to set aside the medians and not do that development for now, I wonder if County Public Works should actually take those over.
Well, that generally I could lie to you, Nancy, and say, well, they are poop, so they're sewer related, but that is a historical
It's the
artifact.
poop that we don't want to go in the sewer. Yeah.
So yeah, as for county taking it over, I wouldn't even
I'm not going to
try
hold
that.
my breath, but
Yeah, exactly. I think it works fine as it is, and Delia's been pretty much on top of that stuff. So yeah, but you're probably right that should go down.
we have a bigger parks budget. We should probably move that over.
Yeah, so I could change that. Okay. Okay.
So Chuck, excuse me, if why would my salary be on the sewer side then? Why not on the park side?
I'm sorry, I was just talking generically. Yeah, but it is on the park side. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Eric asked me a general question about staffing. So, but you're right. I should have separated those two. Okay.
But then we're talking about overhead and everything else being separated out, which you historically have not been doing. So.
Yes, we haven't gotten to that level on the park side yet.
Right.
So we've got, I won't say it's similar to the assessment district, but it is a little bit of, the parks would pick up some of the district's general overhead. Now that gets a little bit strange because parks is funded by property tax revenues. So applying it there, you have discretion on property tax revenues as well. So, but I think once we get a true parks in place, right, park in place, we'll start allocating that stuff more evenly. Right now, we're on our nascent stages, so it's not important. So going down to this next page, capital projects, $10,000 for general system repairs as a pop-up. We've got our 6-year sewer mainline replacement program starting. So Kennedy Jenks is in the midst of their final design for that. If you'll remember, we bundled, it's a 6-year program because we're taking 2-year budgets and bundling them together to get some cost effectiveness on the project. So we're predicting we'll take 2 of those and we'll spend $450,000 this coming year in our replacement program. I asked John Rayner, and he may or may not be cautiously optimistic, but he believes the Meadow Creek crossing sewer realignment, where we're taking the pipe off the Meadow Creek Bridge and redirecting it to the Naples Beach pump station, should go ahead. We've gotten that right of entry permit from state parks. So that looks like that will move forward. We're in the midst of doing environmental work on that and design as well. So, and then Sam's infrastructure budget is just a direct patch from their budget, and that's the $433,000. So if everything goes as planned, we'll start the year with roughly $4 million, and we'll have capital projects of 1.2, small transfer from the operating budget, a transfer from the non-operating revenues, which you'll see below this, of $757,000, and our reserve should drop down to $3.6 million at the end of the year. Okay. And now on to the parks and recreation. So you'll see that line item 1 for revenues. There's the 491 I mentioned before as the allocation of property taxes. We're looking at projects totaling $100,000. This one's a tough one to budget because we don't know the pace of Burnham Park and what that will entail. So I put a placeholder there of $100,000. Obviously, if something changes, we'll do a mid-year budget adjustment. If we move forward, we can do that. Professional services is we're predicting $100,000 there, and included in that is Claudia's salary. It's still under professional services because when we hired her last year, she was a contract employee. Now she is a district employee. So that money includes that in there. And then as per our agreement with Half Moon Bay, if you'll remember, a portion of the city of Half Moon Bay is within our district boundaries, their northern portion. So when we became a parks district, we had to allocate some of the property tax we collect there back to them. So it's basically based on our what we spend on parks, a certain percentage of that goes back to them. It's currently about 18%. So if we spend, I'm gonna try and figure it out here. If we spend $260,000 this year, 18% of that is roughly $40,000, and I hope that math works.
Pretty close.
Yeah, so we'll send that back to them. So, and our starting balance for the parks reserve is $768,000. We'll add $232,000 to it this year, and we'll end up with an even $1 million. And I saw two people had their hand raised. Nancy, okay.
Just checking the, I'm assuming that paying for the pump track in Quarry Park would come out of that $100,000 projects budget.
Yes.
That we're
But again, that's a placeholder because
right. Yeah.
that number could be 20,000 and it could be 250,000. I just don't have enough information. No one has enough information, obviously, at this point.
Right. But we've got a nice reserve in case it's more.
Yeah. And did someone else have their hand raised?
Yeah, this is Dave Olson.
Okay.
With the potential for some number of people here in the district to postpone paying their property taxes, given the deferral of penalty for a year, are you allowing for some percentage drop in that? I mean, you get it eventually, but it might not be this year, coming year.
Actually, Dave, we're on a program called the Teeter Plan. So what that means is basically if we put something on the tax rolls of the county, they guarantee that. So I don't know how they actively deal with that from a property tax revenue basis. That's a good question, quite honestly. So I'd have to check with them, but that's a good question because we're guaranteed with our sewer service charges. I don't know if they absorb the property tax delta. I'd have to ask them. So I'll make a note to do that. Okay.
Chuck?
Yes.
I think if the county's on the Teeter Plan, then they do cover the property taxes. Then
Okay.
they are the ones who are the beneficiaries of all penalties.
Right. They get penalties and interest and all that stuff. Yeah. So I'll just double check that just to be safe.
It's not so much the penalties, but the fact that people may not even pay their taxes.
Right. So I know for a fact our sewer service charges are protected. So if we put 1.9 on the property tax roll, we get it no matter who pays and who doesn't. So let me double check on that property tax. So. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Matthew has a comment.
Okay.
Chuck, could you go back up to that page? So the K&K is going to continue to work on Burnham's Park design, and that's in there, right?
Right.
Are we anticipating actually construction this fiscal year to begin?
No way on earth. But we might, one of the reasons for this amount, and I thought we bumped it up more than that, is we might need a traffic study, we might need a parking study, we might need a biological study. The process of getting this park approved is going to take a long time and a lot of studies. So.
Yeah, I want to note that also Sam's going to expand the wet weather storage facility eventually, but it was either yesterday, but I think it was last week. It was in the review that they're bidding the project again. So maybe they'll actually build it this calendar year. Let's hope.
Yes, the goal is to build it as soon as they can get the, if they get the bids and if everybody agrees on it, which is still a question.
Right.
Well, and it's not included in this year's budget.
It's
in their budget, not mine.
It's in last year's budget.
Right. Oh. Okay. It's in last year's budget at $700,000.
Right.
I had bids of 1.3, and since they're bidding a 200,000 gallon project and a 400,000 gallon project, yeah. So yeah, I'll leave that one alone. Okay. Any other questions on this? And I put together, at Barbara's request, I put together this broad-based budget at a glance because Barbara loves her some pie charts. So
Well, I wanted to see where, something that really clearly showed where all the money came from for everything. And then how much of the money that comes in we spend here in the boundaries of our district and how much we pay to SAM. I mean, obviously they're both our responsibility, but aren't you going to show my pie charts?
okay, I was lingering over this briefly.
I know, he doesn't like the pie charts. I like the pie charts.
Here you go. I don't know how well you can see it on your screen, but I'll just show the revenue side first. So as you can see, the majority of our revenue comes from the sewer side operations, which is generally probably 90% of that is property or sewer service charges, and then property taxes. Non-operating revenues are 22%, and then property tax from parks is 15%, and 6% is property tax for sewer. And now I'll go to the expenses. So generally, if you look at SAM itself, if I add up all those pie slices to the right of the center line, so you could say 50% of our costs are SAM costs here, if we include parks and recs. We've got a larger capital projects budget this year that takes up 23% of our budget than we have in previous years. And the sewer admin is 21% and parks and recs is 7%. So like I said, SAM is a big chunk of our pie. It's a little smaller this year because we've got 1.2 million in projects versus probably $600,000 in previous years.
So everything on the right goes to SAM. Everything on the left is spent within our district. And that turquoise one down at the bottom is collections, but really that money gets spent within our district. So
right.
It just shows to me, this was helpful to me to see where all the revenue goes.
Good. Yeah, good.
Our total budget. Where all the money goes. I like it.
Okay.
Was this pie chart recently revised?
Yes, this is the one. Yeah, I was laughing as I'm tying out numbers. These budgets get complicated with links and cells and whatnot. So that's the one that was revised on the Monday night agenda we posted and sent out. So.
Okay.
If I had to do over again, I wouldn't have tried to rush it under the 5 o'clock deadline Friday. So.
Yeah, the numbers are slightly
go back
different.
to the numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And then finally, we have here the 5-year look ahead projection. As you can see on the sewer service charge, we show a flat sewer service fee going for the next 5 years. I think we'll have to be increasing that. So we'll start talking about that at the beginning of 2021 for the next fiscal year budget. Our annual sewer service charges show flat, but again, that'll increase. Property tax will probably remain relatively flat. On that line 2, other revenues, including non-operating, you see that highlighted section? That shows we're getting our reimbursement from money we fronted to the assessment district each year of about $300,000. That will drop off after the year 2022. So that shows that dip, and we'll have to make up for that dip to start balancing the budget. So as you'll see on the bottom line here, net gain for capital projects funding, we're putting aside $750,000 to offset our costs. That drops $300,000 plus or minus there. So that's part of the reason we'll have to increase that sewer service charge at some point in time. So
Sorry.
Go ahead, Eric.
Just one question on the assumption for ERUs. Is that based on the amount of build out we have on a year-to-year basis, or is that based on something else?
Yeah, we don't generally jump very high. Last year, I think Delia issued 8 permits. The year before was 6. We might have a slightly larger bump this year if Big Wave goes ahead, but I can't predict that. At any rate, we've got 3,200 ERUs, so even if we added 10 or 20 or 30, it's not a demonstrable jump in our revenue. So,
yeah, it's not make or break either way.
Yeah. So.
And we still have the lowest sewer rates in the county, correct?
I don't know in the county, but they're dang near the lowest, I'm sure, because even at 5, they're the lowest on the coast side. I know that, and definitely will be after. I think Montera's projecting a rate increase this year, as is Half Moon Bay.
Montera's having a meeting tonight. I'm sure it's quite interesting.
Yeah, their rate increase is on the agenda tonight.
And do you know what percent it is?
No.
A lot.
Partly because they're adding a base 568 fee for the water.
Oh, okay. So.
Well, Nancy
Yeah,
and I did a whole analysis of it. And at that time, it's hard because different communities compute their water charges in different ways. So it's not apples to apples. But I think we concluded that we had the lowest rates in the county even after the increase. And I think I would support a smaller increase on a yearly basis or more often, because we had let such a long time go by that we needed a big increase. But it probably makes more sense to do smaller increases on an ongoing basis.
Two thoughts to add from that analysis. We didn't include or account for the sewer bond that not all of our residences pay, but some of them pay. So if you add that in, I think it's something like $380 on my tax bill. So we still are among the lowest if you include that in. And Chuck, is that what goes away in fiscal year 2023? Is the sewer bond is no more?
Yeah. 2022 is the last year that's paid. Yeah.
The other thought on the rates is, we have to make up for that going away. But the 200,000 in property tax that, it's still on subsidizing sewers, as when we get to where we are building a park and building it out and have maintenance and staff and so on to manage it, we may need to think about whether sewers start to pay for themselves without the property tax.
Well, and yeah, what'll happen next year is we'll hire someone to do a rate study for us. And this 5-year plan is generally what dictates what your rate increases will be. So it won't be a 3% cost of living. It'll be based upon, losing this $300,000 here, and a whole bunch of other factors. Again, like Nancy pointed out, a shift of property tax possibly to parks, and that will change things. So yeah.
Can I just mention that the bond that's charged on the property tax roll has no effect on the sewer at all, none.
Yeah, but her point is that it's part of what you pay for sewer service. So
that, well, sort of, yeah.
Sort of, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody.
It goes into paying the bond, so it doesn't.
How many people are on that, Delia? 1,300 roughly.
Yeah, I can't say for sure, but I think that's close.
Yeah, I think when we refied, there were 1,300 parcels that were financed. So I'd estimate maybe we have 2,700 customers and 13. So half of them maybe are paying that 300, 350, 380, whatever it is each year. So.
And who had to pay it and who didn't?
I think it was all new housing units after 1998 or 2000 or something are the ones.
About 2000, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, if you hadn't developed, your property the assessment district was formed in '96. So if you hadn't developed your property, then you got assessed this fee, if you will.
All right.
Okay.
Actually, it was later than that because there were a lot of ones that were still on the old capacity. So
Oh, okay. All right.
we still had capacity available. Yeah. It was around 2,000.
And then if you, I won't go into detail, here's our capital projects and not our reserve fund. So you'll see if we kept our sewer service charge at 580, we'd slowly be reducing our reserves going across the board, starting at 3.6 this year. Without an increase, we'd be down at 2.2 million in reserves. So we're trying to hold that number somewhere probably in the mid 3 million mark to allow for more so emergency projects or bigger projects at SAM than anything would happen in our district. So, all right. Any questions or comments on that?
Very clear.
Good.
We will
Like I say,
vote on this. We will consider this again at the next meeting and vote to approve it or whatever.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any further comments? Does anyone from the public want to comment on this budget? All right, hearing none. I'll move on to consideration of independent contractors agreement for general manager services. And we had pretty much discussed this and we're ready to approve it pending having the list of charges.
And here is the list of charges. And I'm not there. Oh, yes, I am. Yes. So we had talked about the previous contract was $185 an hour, and that was a 3-year contract. So now I'm at $195 per hour. As you can see, I am woefully underpaid compared to many other people at Dudek. It's quite sad. So we included this as part of, because your board tabled it until I included the standard schedule of charges.
All right, since we've fully discussed this pending seeing the schedule of charges, does anyone have a comment on the schedule of charges, or does someone want to make a motion to approve this agreement?
And I'm glad I'm an engineer and move to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Barbara, let's call roll.
Oh, we need a roll call, Bill?
Need a roll call. Yeah.
Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Oh, sorry. Director Dye?
Yes.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Sukamel?
Aye.
Director Seaton?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you all.
Happy to have you with us for another year. Consideration of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side Report. Matthew, do you want to speak to this, or?
Well, the beginning of the materials, I didn't go to the March 30th or April 13th meetings, so I don't have any comments on that. The last meeting I went to was the consideration of the budget, and I think that everyone on the board, I think, appreciated the new format and the new openness that Keishan has instituted here. And in fact, there were hardly any questions because you could understand what you were looking at. And I think that was the most important thing, although we still do have some, I guess I'll call it inherent hostility between some of the board members that don't make anything easier. Well, Barbara, you said this several times. Things have improved at SAM. Budgets do keep going up, and they're generating, weekly editorial comment columns or letters to the local newspaper that we all should consolidate all of this. But I don't think that that movement's been around here, well, ever since I have, more than 40 years. So I don't think that's to be unexpected. And most of it's coming from Half Moon Bay, of course, because they are looking at a bigger rate increase than anybody. And that's about it.
Well, there have been some big upgrades at the plant. They finally cleaned the digester, which took a long time because there's only one company that really can do it. They're there, and they have 2 digesters, so they're able to use just one. That was important. They got new blowers that send the air through the, one of the tanks to sort of clean up the material, and those are going to result in very significant energy savings. So that's a good development. They're also talking to a company that may come in and do some solar panels and so forth and work with SAM to take advantage of some subsidies and it's one of these things where if they reduce the energy costs, they get a portion of it, but there's no upfront cost, so that the plant could end up being much more energy efficient and at no cost to SAM. So there's a lot of good things that are happening right now. They spent some money on anti-flushable wipes public relations campaign. There's a big sign on the truck now, and they have some ads out there. As you may have seen on Nextdoor, one of the Montera pumps got clogged with flushable wipes, and it cost, I think, $80,000 by the time they were done to repair that. They've had 2 other pump problems up in Montera. One was a blouse that had gotten in, and another one was non-flushable underwear. So, people should not be flushing things.
It was just regular underwear.
I don't know any more detail than that, but it does cost everybody money when those things happen. Today I went and looked at the restarted project for the IPS pipeline replacement, which is the piece from Half Moon Bay up to Montera. Up to El Granada. It's it's in El Granada. It's the missing piece, kind of to the south, like across from Via Uno, that whole area. This is the one where they had the problem where they laid it out in the wrong direction and took out some willows. It's starting up now. It's pretty cool. If I could share, can you give me permission to share my screen, Chuck?
Let me see.
I went by there today, and they expect to, I think, have it done tomorrow. It goes, I think, 200 feet an hour, so it's very slow. They've already, drilled out the track for it, and it's full of bentonite mud, which is a naturally occurring substance. And they now they have the drill bit going backwards, and it's pulling this PVC pipe. It's going to be the new pipeline through the hole.
You can share your screen theoretically.
It's not very exciting, but you can see that the pipe is really slowly, and there's all hundreds of feet of it eventually are going to go back under the ground and take over. All right, that's all I wanted to show. But that's what's happening there, and then we will have the whole back to my view. Okay, I need to there we go. So that project is nearly finished, and so we will have an entirely replaced IPS line from, I guess, the Half Moon Bay border, I think is the southern edge, all the way up through El Granada. So this is really good news. I mean, it was a very old pipe. And the other piece, and I think, Matthew, you commented on this at one point, I don't know if we said it in the meeting, they had a high-tech analysis of the line that goes from the Princeton pump station to the IPS. It's part of the IPS. And that analysis showed that that line is still fine. It has a good 10 more years at least of operation.
Yeah, yeah. They said to check it again in 10 years, but they actually said we should still continue to expect the 100-year lifespan of that metal pipe to be realistic, which sounds mighty optimistic to me. But and then on the section that you were just showing, Sam had to spend an extra $67,500 on a well, what do they call it?
Engineer.
Essentially, extra inspection services to make sure that there weren't any more screw-ups like happened previously.
And plus the cost of the biologist, which is pretty close to the same amount. It's going to be at least $50,000 or more. And I met the biologist today who was checking to make sure, and she said no, there were no birds' nests or animals harmed in the process of what happened.
I didn't get a clear understanding of that. Will that biologist follow the entire route, or just up by?
No, I think she was monitoring everything they were doing. So it feels like things are getting done and things are getting improved. I guess that's all. And you all saw the budget. So. Oh,
Sam also changed their legal counsel, and to Rutan and Tucker, who have started this month, and they also provided Sam provided money for the former counsel to basically lead them into this position by giving them background and helping them understand various aspects that they're going to be dealing with, I guess, by the end of June.
Yeah, it was a unanimous vote for the new council after doing the interviews, and they bring a lot of he brings a lot of experience with very, very similar agencies to Sam. So it will be good. So I feel good about things that are happening, Sam. Feel good about things that are happening at GCSD. So consent agenda. Anyone else have anything to say? Okay, consent agenda. Approved.
Did you all receive the second revised warrant?
So do I need to read all the items here?
No.
Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Barbara, roll call.
I'll call the roll.
Sorry. Roll call, please.
Director Dye.
Yes.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Sukamel.
Aye.
Director Seaton.
Aye.
Okay, on motion of Director Clark, seconded by Director Sukamel, motion passes 4-0.
Committee reports. Anything to say? David?
I will just say that the California Special Districts Association, San Mateo chapter, quarterly meeting was postponed due to COVID. So we're hoping to pick back up in August. Fingers crossed.
And as I mentioned earlier, David and I met with K&K and went to the county about Further Park plans. So we are eager and excited to bring them to the full board and the community as soon as we can. Right, David? Anyway, you know what? This is all I printed out on my agenda. What do I have to do next?
You've got the information calendar. So we've got attorney's report.
No report.
You've got general manager report. I've got nothing further. We've got administrative staff report. Delia?
Did you want me to mention the garbage situation?
Yeah, sure.
Good, yes.
Yeah, there was something that came up on Nextdoor where there was an overflowing trash can. I believe it's partially because of the cutback in staffing. Recology had an agreement with the Harbor District to pick up the cans at Surfers Beach one day during the weekend, which I don't believe happened. So we are going to be very actively monitoring it this coming 3-day weekend, and Recology has basically confirmed that they will be picking up Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, so that we, can try and avoid as much of the overflow as possible with the one can. So that's all I have to report.
Please thank Recology for us.
I will do that.
That's
Yeah, I actually talked with Chris today and thanked her for that. And, Chris is all over this stuff as always. And, we've faced this issue before with dumping at the beaches, and we've talked about adding more cans or removing the cans altogether. And I didn't want to do it on a holiday weekend. We may remove the cans altogether and just see what happens for a couple of weekends, because generally people won't just dump on the beach, but they will dump next to a garbage can that's full up. There's also been a problem that with, when Chris's people go there and pick it up, they find it full of household waste. So it's not people, taking a sandwich to the beach and throwing the wrappers out. It's some guy doesn't want to pay the service. She said the last time there were 4 bags of kitty litter in it. So, so it's an ongoing problem with these public cans. And ever since this happened, I've noticed a lot of public spaces don't keep them out because, like I said, no one will just throw trash on the ground. They will put it next to a full can. I've probably done the same myself, sadly enough, at a beach. So, so it's an ongoing issue.
Well, let's get a report at our next meeting how it's going.
Yeah, but Chris has done a great job staying on top of it.
Nancy?
It's worth taking a look if you ride your bike down the trail. At Poplar Beach, they have installed, and I think it's with Republic Trash, but really large containers. It's like a bank of 4 containers for recycling and trash that are really huge compared to the one little trash can at Surfers Beach. And if you decide to maintain trash there, it might be worth exploring something that's bigger and more expansive.
Yeah, the problem is that it's very difficult to service the cans along the Surfers Beach section because there's nowhere for the driver to pull over. And so the driver is forced to hand carry out the garbage. So that's why we've tried to limit the size of what they're carrying. Yeah, it's really difficult because there is nowhere literally for them to pull over.
Hopefully when they build the new
bathrooms,
we can put larger cans there.
Yeah. I mean, I've been dealing with this for 20 years and it's just been an ongoing issue, and we just do the best we can. So, but I think the experiment might be worthwhile to see what happens if we remove them. Unfortunately, what I think might happen is we'll find more garbage in the other cans, the surrounding areas like at Burnham Strip or in the harbor. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Thanks, Delia.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, next up is engineers report. And we've got no further report. I reported on Medio Creek. We're doing some environmental work on that right now. And then hopefully when that's done, we'll get our CDP through, or it's not a CDP, it's a addendum or something like that to the CDP, but we'll get that through Half Moon Bay. They've actually been good working with us on that. So keep that moving forward. And then next up is future agenda items. So if anyone's got any, let us know, send us an email, and we'll be good. That's it, Barbara.
Anyone else have anything they wanted to say or whatever? All right, well then I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.